The skies above Seoul darkened unnaturally on what had been a clear summer day. The June sunshine that had warmed the city streets just moments before vanished as if swallowed by an impossible eclipse. Professor Kim Ji-won looked up from his quantum physics research, the holographic particle simulation forgotten as the laboratory's emergency alerts blared with an urgency he had never heard before. System malfunction? He wondered aloud. But the expressions on his colleagues' faces told him this was something far worse. On screens worldwide, massive objects entered Earth's atmosphere. Geometrically perfect dodecahedrons, obsidian black, against the blue sky, each one measuring at least 3 kilometers across. Their surfaces reflected no light, seeming to absorb it instead. They defied all human engineering capabilities, moving with impossible precision despite their enormous size, decelerating without any visible propulsion system. "What are they?" whispered Lee Hyun, Ji-won's research assistant, her face pale in the harsh emergency lighting. Her hands trembled as she pulled up satellite imagery on her tablet. "They're appearing everywhere. Tokyo, Mumbai, San Francisco." Throughout the Korean Advanced Sciences Institute, researchers abandoned their projects, crowding around view screens. Some frantically called loved ones. Others stood in stunned silence. "Military response?" asked Dr. Bae Sunwoo, the particle physics department head, his voice tight with controlled fear. "Jets scrambled from Osan Air Base," someone called out, but the words died as they watched the fighter squadron approaching the Seoul vessel disintegrate in bursts of flame. Before anyone could form theories or evacuation plans, energy beams of blinding violet light lanced down from the alien vessels. Seoul's iconic En-Seoul Tower vaporized in an instant, followed by Lotte World Tower, then entire districts. The ground shook continuously as if the earth itself was convulsing in pain. Similar reports flooded in from Beijing, New York, London, and 40 other major cities simultaneously. The pattern was identical everywhere, precise, methodical destruction radiating outward from city centers. No military installations were specifically targeted. The attacks seemed designed for maximum civilian casualties. "Get to sub-level 3, shouted Professor Kim as the building shuddered. He grabbed research drives and shoved them into his pockets. The experimental quantum shielding might hold. Only 12 people made it to the reinforced laboratory before the building above them collapsed. They huddled beneath the shimmering blue field of the experimental shield as dust and debris rained down. Through the facility's remaining sensors, they witnessed humanity's darkest day unfold. The aliens, later identified as the Vordaks from fragments of intercepted communications, struck without warning or declaration. 3 billion lives ended that day as metropolitan centers and surrounding regions were systematically razed. No demands followed, no communication attempted. The attack lasted precisely 18 hours, 7 minutes, and 22 seconds before the alien fleet retreated in perfect formation to positions beyond Mars. For 3 days, Professor Kim and the survivors remained trapped beneath the rubble. Their shield generator strained to maintain the protective field while oxygen levels gradually depleted. On the 4th morning, they heard the sounds of rescue equipment. In the smoking ruins of what had once been the Korean Advanced Sciences Institute, Professor Kim pulled himself from the rubble, helping his weakened colleagues to safety. His lab was one of the few sections that remained partially intact, protected by experimental shielding that had never been intended for this purpose. The soul that greeted them was unrecognizable. Where a vibrant metropolis of 10 million had stood, only devastation remained. Ash fell like grey snow. The Han River ran black with soot. Rescue workers moved through the ruins like ghosts, faces hidden behind masks, hope diminishing with each passing hour. "They think they've broken us," Kim said to the small group of survivors as they stood on a hill overlooking the ruined city. His voice, though hoarse from dust and dehydration, carried a steel edge that made the others look up. "They believe we'll cower in fear, waiting for them to return and finish the job. They've badly miscalculated." Among the ruins, Park Do-hyun, formerly a communications specialist with the Korean military, had established a makeshift monitoring station using salvaged equipment. 3 weeks after the attack, as governments attempted to count their dead and establish contact with other survivors, Do-hyun discovered something peculiar. "Professor, look at this," he said, showing Kim a data visualization. "There's a rhythmic pattern in background radiation that hadn't existed before the attack. It's faint, but it's everywhere, consistent across all our monitoring stations." "Natural phenomenon?" asked Kim, studying the waveform. "No," Do-hyun replied, his eyes reflecting the blue light of the screen. "It's structured, almost like a language, and it began precisely when the ships appeared." Kim placed a hand on the younger man's shoulder. "Document everything. This could be important." Neither man knew then that this discovery would eventually become humanity's first real insight into the enemy that had nearly destroyed them, and ultimately the key to ensuring the Vordax would never strike again. Part 2. Understanding the E.E. Ivans enemy, detailed version. 5 years passed as Earth rebuilt from ashes. The skylines of former metropolises were now dominated by defensive structures and early warning systems rather than skyscrapers. Seoul, once a technological wonderland, had been reconstructed with utility and survival as primary concerns. Underground habitation zones connected by reinforced transport tunnels, surface buildings designed to withstand orbital bombardment. Former national boundaries became increasingly irrelevant as the Emergency Planetary Defense Council formed in the aftermath of what was now simply called the First Strike. The EPDC headquarters had been established in the relative safety of the southern Alps of New Zealand, one of the few regions largely untouched by the attack. There, military leaders, scientists, and engineers from surviving nations pooled resources and knowledge with singular focus, ensure humanity's survival against the expected second strike. Professor Kim Ji-won's reputation had grown legendary. His experimental quantum shielding, which had saved dozens of lives during the attack, became the foundation for Earth's new defensive technology. The Alien Technology Division he led occupied an entire underground complex beneath the rebuilt Korean Advanced Sciences Institute. 300 researchers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer salvaged Vordax technology. "The integration is nearly impossible," Kim explained to the EPDC Quarterly Review Board, gesturing to the floating hologram of an alien power cell. "Their technology operates on principles that contradict our understanding of physics. It's as if they evolved in a universe with slightly different fundamental constants." Across the complex, Park Do-hyun had expanded his initial discovery of alien communication patterns into a full-scale intelligence operation. His signal intelligence division employed quantum computers to analyze the subtle radiation patterns that had persisted long after the Vordax retreat. 27 listening posts around the world and 6 in orbit captured and relayed data to his team. After years of failed attempts and false starts, their breakthrough came during the 5th winter after the attack. Do-hyun burst into Kim's laboratory at 3:17 a.m., his eyes bloodshot from sleeplessness but shining with triumph. "We've decoded it," he said, voice hoarse. "Not completely, but enough. The radiation patterns, they're not just communications. They're navigational markers, beacons." An emergency council meeting was convened within hours. Representatives from the surviving major nations gathered both physically and via secure holographic presence as Do-hyun presented his findings. "It wasn't random," Do-hyun explained, his normally reserved demeanor animated by the significance of the discovery. Holographic star maps materialized around the conference table. They targeted Earth because our solar system sits at a strategic crossroads of spacetime. He manipulated the display to show lines connecting various star systems. "These radiation patterns we've been tracking are actually part of a larger network, a cosmic positioning system, if you will. Our solar system occupies a crucial node in this network. Their empire requires this position for expansion." General Han Min-jae, the stoic military leader of the Asian Defense Coalition, leaned forward. "You're saying they destroyed 3 billion lives simply for real estate?" "Strategic positioning," Do-hyun corrected grimly. "Based on the communication fragments we've decoded, the Vordax Empire expands through these nodes. Each one allows them to project power across specific regions of space more efficiently." "And the attack?" asked President Okoye of the African Union. "The clearing operation?" Do-hyun replied, his voice tight. They considered us vermin to be exterminated before claiming the territory. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Meanwhile, in another wing of the complex, Moon-jia had been working with a different approach to understanding their enemy. A brilliant xenobiologist who had lost her entire family in the destruction of Beijing, Moon's relentless work ethic was matched only by her creative thinking. While others focused on Vordak's technology, she had insisted on studying the few biological samples recovered from damaged alien vessels, cellular residue and tissue fragments preserved in the vacuum of space. After months of analysis using advanced microscopy and molecular modeling, Moon made an equally important discovery. She presented her findings to the council the same day as Do-hyun. Their biology is fundamentally different, she reported, displaying three-dimensional models of alien cellular structures. While based on carbon like ours, they process energy through specialized organs highly sensitive to specific radiation frequencies. It's both their strength and potentially their weakness. She manipulated the display to show simulations of energy flowing through the alien physiology. The Vordaks can absorb and metabolize certain forms of radiation directly. It's how they power not just their technology but their bodies. However, this adaptation makes them extremely vulnerable to specific wavelengths that disrupt this process. Like an allergic reaction, asked Director Lopez of the Pan American Science Directorate. More like radiation poisoning, but exponentially more severe, Moon explained. Our simulations suggest exposure to these specific frequencies would be rapidly incapacitating or fatal to Vordak's physiology, while remaining harmless to humans and Earth life. As these discoveries reshaped humanity's understanding of their enemy, Commander Kang Tae-ho prepared for the most dangerous mission since the attack. Satellite reconnaissance had identified an abandoned Vordak's outpost on the far side of Mars, likely a forward operating base for the attack on Earth, hastily evacuated during their retreat. Kang had been a decorated naval officer before the attack, commanding a South Korean destroyer. When the aliens struck, he had managed to save hundreds of coastal residents by coordinating impromptu evacuation efforts. His tactical acumen and cool decision-making under pressure earned him leadership of the newly formed space operations. Command, the mission parameters are clear. Kang briefed his team of 12 specialists in the launch bay of the ESS Pathfinder, Earth's first interplanetary military vessel. We confirm the outpost is abandoned. Secure any technology or data and return. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. The journey to Mars took 17 days, a remarkable achievement of human engineering driven by existential necessity. The outpost, a geometric structure of black material similar to the attack vessels, stood in stark contrast to the red Martian landscape. No signs of life or active energy signatures, reported Nam Hana, the team's sensor specialist. The structure appears dormant. Entry proved surprisingly simple. The Vordaks had apparently left in haste, not bothering to secure the facility. Inside, the team discovered alien computer terminals, navigation equipment, and what appeared to be living quarters. They breathe a similar atmosphere, noted Hong Minu, the team's environmental specialist. Slightly higher oxygen content, but compatible with our physiology. The true prize came in what they determined was the command center. Kang himself managed to activate an alien data storage device using techniques developed by Professor Kim's team. It's a navigational database, he realized, as alien symbols flickered across screens. Star charts, transit routes. After securing all recoverable technology, the team returned to Earth with their precious cargo. Analysis of the data provided the final piece of the puzzle. The Vordak's home system was within reach, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. The alien navigational data also revealed principles that, combined with Professor Kim's research on Vordak's power systems, could potentially enable faster-than-light travel. At the subsequent EPDC meeting, Kang displayed the star charts recovered from Mars. "We know where they came from," he said, highlighting a star system in the holographic display. "And we know they're planning to return to finish what they started. The navigational calculations we recovered suggest they're gathering a larger force. Estimated time of return, 10 years from the initial attack. We have 5 years left to prepare." The council chamber filled with murmurs of concern, but also determination. "Then we have work to do," said Professor Kim, exchanging meaningful glances with Park Do-hyun, Moon Jia, and Commander Kang. They struck first, believing us defenseless and primitive. Their next encounter with humanity will be very different. Part 3. The Human Response, Detailed Version. 10 years after the first attack, Earth's appearance had transformed beyond recognition. The planet now bristled with defenses like a hedgehog's quills. Massive orbital platforms, each one a kilometer-wide array of weapon systems, sensor arrays and shield generators, formed 3 concentric rings around the planet. These sentinel platforms represented humanity's first line of defense, capable of intercepting incoming threats well before they reached atmosphere. The surface below had changed just as dramatically. Major population centers had largely moved underground, with sprawling subterranean cities extending hundreds of meters beneath the Earth's crust. What remained above ground was heavily fortified, buildings designed with interlinked shield systems, materials engineered to withstand orbital bombardment, and evacuation protocols drilled into every citizen from childhood. Manufacturing and research facilities occupied the deepest levels, protected by kilometers of rock and advanced defensive systems. The Seoul Underground, built beneath the ruins, and subsequent reconstruction of the original city, had become the primary hub for the Alien Technology Division. Here in cavernous chambers that hummed with power, humanity's greatest minds worked to ensure survival. But Earth's most ambitious project lay not on the planet itself, but hidden on the far side of the Moon. There, excavated into the lunar regolith, and shielded from Earth-facing detection, the new Armstrong shipyards had been operating at maximum capacity for 5 years. Its crowning achievement, the ESS Vengeance, now neared completion in the central construction dock. At 1.2 kilometers long, the Vengeance represented a technological leap that would have been unimaginable before the Vordax attack. Its sleek, predatory silhouette incorporated both human engineering principles and reverse-engineered alien technology. Powered by a hybrid antimatter at Vordax energy matrix, it could achieve speeds approaching light in normal space, and, if the theoretical models proved correct, could use the principles discovered in the Vordax navigational data to create stable wormholes for faster-than-light travel. Commander Kang Tae-ho, now promoted to Admiral and given command of Earth's first deep space battle group, stood in the ship's command center. The bridge crew worked at their stations around him, running final systems checks as the launch date approached. Through the forward viewport, Earth hung as a blue-white crescent, beautiful and fragile. "The Vordax believe we're still licking our wounds," he told his officers during the final briefing session. The holographic tactical display between them showed intelligence assessments of Vordax fleet movements. "Their reconnaissance of our system has been minimal, just automated probes that our stealth satellites have tracked and monitored. Their intelligence gathering is surprisingly limited. They seem to rely more on technological superiority than accurate information." Lieutenant Commander Han Subin, Tactical Operations Officer, studied the display with narrowed eyes. "Overconfidence," she said. "They think we're primitives who couldn't possibly recover so quickly." "An advantage we'll exploit fully," nodded Admiral Kang. "Our entire operation depends on the element of surprise." On the engineering deck below, Professor Kim Ji-won supervised the final calibration of the ship's primary weapon system. Though approaching 60, Kim's mind remained razor-sharp, his determination to see this mission succeed undiminished by the years of relentless work. Beside him, Dr. Moon Jia examined the diagnostic readings with equal intensity. Both scientists had devoted the past decade to understanding and exploiting the Vordax biological weakness she had discovered. Their collaboration had produced the ship's revolutionary weapons system. "Final calibration sequence complete," announced Moon, her fingers dancing across the control interface. "The sunburst array is operating at 98.7% efficiency, well above mission parameters." The sunburst array represented humanity's greatest hope against the Vordax. Unlike conventional weapons that might be blocked by alien shields, the array could emit precisely calibrated radiation frequencies that would pass through Vordax defensive systems and target their unique biology directly. The radiation would Incapacitate or kill Vordax while leaving humans and other Earth life completely unharmed. Begin the containment field test, Kim instructed. We need absolute certainty that there will be no radiation bleed into crew quarters at maximum output. As the two scientists continued their work, Admiral Kang received a priority transmission in his private quarters. The quantum-encrypted communication came directly from EPDC headquarters. Intelligence officer Yoon Mina, who had distinguished herself by developing new methods to track and predict Vordax movements, appeared on the screen. "Admiral," she began without preamble, her expression grave, "our deep space observation posts and quantum entanglement detectors have confirmed increased activity at the edges of our solar system. Our scouts have detected Vordax fleet movements, consistent with pre-attack positioning." Kang felt his stomach tighten. "Timeline? They're gathering in greater numbers than the first attack," Yoon continued. "Our analysis indicates they're preparing for a second, more thorough attack. Estimated arrival in Earth orbit, 3 months. Their technology appears to have advanced as well, new ship configurations unlike those we saw a decade ago." Kang was silent for a moment, absorbing the implications. Then his jaw set with determination. "Thank you, Officer Yoon. Continue monitoring and update me on any changes." Within the hour, Kang had convened an emergency meeting with the ship's senior staff and scientific leadership. The mood in the conference room was tense but focused as he relayed the intelligence. 3 months, muttered Captain Song Yunha, his second in command. "Can we be ready in time?" Professor Kim exchanged looks with Dr. Moon before addressing the group. "The Vengeance is at 92% operational capacity now. We could launch within 2 months and complete final systems integration en route." "Not good." "Enough," Kang said, his voice firm. "Then we launch in 1 month. No exceptions, no delays. Engineering crews will work triple shifts if necessary." He looked around the table, meeting each person's eyes. "We strike before they return. The very survival of our species depends on this mission's success." No one argued. They had all lived through the aftermath of the first attack. They all carried memories of loved ones lost, cities destroyed. The determination in the room was palpable. The plan that formed over the next 72 hours was audacious almost to the point of insanity. A preemptive strike against the heart of Vordax territory. Not for conquest or retribution, but with the singular goal of ensuring Earth would never face another Vordax attack. The Vengeance would lead a battle group of 7 ships, all that could be made ready in time. They would use the reverse-engineered Vordax technology to create a wormhole jump directly to the alien home system, bypassing the gathering invasion fleet. Once there, they would deploy the Sunburst Array against the Vordax leadership and command structures, forcing an unconditional stand-down of all hostilities against Earth. "We are not going there to exterminate them," Admiral Kang emphasized during the mission briefing to the combined crews. "We are not like them. Our goal is to neutralize their capacity and will to threaten Earth again. If they stand down, we offer terms. If they fight..." His expression hardened. "We must be prepared to do whatever is necessary to ensure humanity's survival." The final month before launch passed in a blur of frantic activity. The lunar shipyards operated at 250% capacity, burning through resources stockpiled for years to ensure the battle group would be ready. The original plan to have 12 ships had been scaled back by necessity, but each of the 7 vessels was a technological marvel, incorporating the best of human innovation and adapted alien technology. On the Vengeance, Professor Kim oversaw the installation of specialized sunburst projectors throughout the ship. The main array in the bow could target an entire planet if necessary, while smaller tactical units would allow for precision strikes against individual vessels or installations. "The radiation will pass through their hulls as if they weren't there," he explained to the tactical teams. "Their shields, which are designed to block matter and energy weapons, are completely ineffective against these specific frequencies." Dr. Moon conducted the final briefings on Vordax biology to the boarding teams. "Remember," she emphasized, "they will be completely incapacitated when exposed to sunburst radiation, but the effect is not instantaneous. There is approximately a 30-second window between exposure and full incapacitation, during which they remain dangerous." Throughout the ship, Crew members made their own preparations. Personal messages were recorded and stored for families back on Earth, to be delivered only if the mission failed. Small mementos and photographs were tucked into crew quarters, reminders of what they were fighting for. 3 days before the scheduled launch, Admiral Kang stood in his quarters, staring at a photograph of his wife and daughter who had died in Seoul during the first attack. He touched the image gently before tucking it into his uniform pocket, close to his heart. A chime announced Professor Kim's arrival. The scientist entered, looking exhausted but determined. "The final diagnostics are complete," Kim reported. "The sunburst array is fully operational. All ships in the battle group have been equipped with the technology." Kang nodded. "And the wormhole generator?" "Theoretical models indicate a 78% probability of successful transit," Kim said. "The highest we can achieve without actual field testing, which we obviously cannot perform without alerting the Vordax." 78%, Kang repeated. "Not ideal, but we've faced worse odds." Kim smiled faintly. "Indeed we have. 10 years ago, the probability of Earth developing this technology within a decade would have been calculated at less than 0.01%. And yet here we are," Kang said, "a testament to human determination and desperation," Kim added soberly. The launch day arrived with a sense of grim purpose pervading the entire battle group. As the crews took their stations, Admiral Kang addressed them from the Vengeance's command center, his words transmitted to all 7 ships. 10 years ago, the Vordax came to our world believing they would find an easy conquest, a primitive species, to be cleared away without thought or consequence. They killed 3 billion of our people, destroyed our cities, and left believing we would cower in fear until they returned to finish the job. His voice grew stronger, resonating with conviction. They were wrong. Humanity does not cower. We adapt. We overcome. And today, we take the fight to them, not for revenge, but for the right of our species to exist without fear. Today, we ensure that the Vordax will never strike Earth again. Throughout the battle group, crews stood a little straighter, faces set with determination. On the Vengeance's bridge, Captain Song gave the order to initiate launch sequence. The massive lunar hangar doors slid open, revealing the star-filled blackness of space. One by one, the 7 ships of humanity's first deep space battle group emerged from their hidden shipyard, sleek and predatory against the backdrop of stars. At the head of the formation, the ESS Vengeance powered up its main engines, the hull thrumming with energy as it prepared for the most daring mission in human history. On the bridge, Admiral Kang gave the order that would commit them irrevocably to their course. Navigation, plot jump coordinates to the Vordax home system. Engineering, begin wormhole initialization sequence. All hands prepare for faster-than-light transit. As the ship's AI counted down to jump, Kang thought of Earth, beautiful and blue behind them, and of all they had lost, and all they still had to protect. "For Earth," he said quietly, as the fabric of space-time began to distort before them. "They struck us first. Now we ensure they never strike again." The space before the battle group shimmered, twisted and tore open, revealing a swirling tunnel of light and energy. With humanity's hopes riding on their success, the 7 ships accelerated forward and vanished into the artificial wormhole, bound for the heart of Vordax territory. Part 4, Taking the Fight to the Stars, detailed version. The interior of the wormhole defied description. Streams of quantum particles flowed like luminescent rivers around the battle group as they traversed the artificial passage through space-time. On the bridge of the ESS Vengeance, crew members gripped their stations, faces bathed in otherworldly light. The ship's structure groaned under stresses never before encountered by human-made vessels. "Hull integrity at 94% and holding," reported Chief Engineer Han Jinsu, his voice steady despite the sweat beading on his forehead. "Quantum field stabilizers operating within parameters." Admiral Kang stood resolute at the command station, eyes fixed on the swirling maelstrom ahead. 23 minutes into the transit, far longer than their simulations had predicted, the wormhole's exit aperture finally appeared, a glowing ring of energy marking their destination. "All ships, prepare for emergence," Kang ordered through the tactical network. Shields to maximum. Weapons systems on standby. Intelligence Officer Yoon, prepare for immediate sensor sweep. The transition back to normal space hit like a physical blow. Warning klaxons blared as compensators struggled to adapt. For 3 heart-stopping seconds, all systems flickered before restabilizing. Transit complete, announced Captain Song, her voice betraying just a hint of relief. All ships accounted for, minor structural damage to frigates Echo and Sierra, but all vessels combat operational. Before them lay the Vordax home system, a yellow-orange star slightly larger than Sol, orbited by 11 planetary bodies. The 4th planet, a massive super-Earth with swirling green-blue atmospheric patterns, showed extensive signs of development. Orbital structures glittered like diamonds against the void, and artificial satellites formed constellations around the world. "Sensor sweep complete," said Sensor Officer Choi Junho, his young face illuminated by the glow of his console. 4th planet appears to be the Vordax homeworld, multiple planetary bodies showing signs of civilization throughout the system. His brow furrowed as he studied the readings. "But there's something unexpected, Admiral. Our biosensors are detecting multiple distinct alien species present, not just Vordax biosignatures." Admiral Kang exchanged a glance with Captain Song. "Explain." Choi adjusted his instruments, confirming the readings. "At least 4 distinct biological patterns, sir. Vordax signatures are predominant, but the others appear in significant numbers, particularly in labor and industrial sectors." Professor Kim, who had come to the bridge for their arrival, leaned forward to examine the data. "The radiation patterns. Each species emits a distinctly different," he noted. "The non-Vordax species show signs of restricted movement and concentrated population centers. Possible habitat containment." Tactical Officer Han Subin delivered the chilling conclusion. "They're prisoners, sir, or slaves." The terrible truth became clear as they moved closer, utilizing the stealth technology developed from studying Vordax. Vessels. The battle group maintained position in the shadow of the system's 7th planet, a gas giant with extensive rings that helped mask their presence while they gathered intelligence. Through high-resolution imaging and signal intercepts, they confirmed what the initial readings had suggested. The Vordax had built their empire by conquering and enslaving other spacefaring races. Massive habitat structures housed populations of 3 distinct alien species, each performing specialized roles within the Vordax hierarchy. Armed Vordax. Overseers maintained strict control over these populations. Earth wasn't their first victim, Dr. Moon observed grimly as she reviewed the data in the ship's conference room. "We're merely their most recent target, one they hadn't yet succeeded in fully subjugating. And likely not their last, if we don't stop them here," Admiral Kang added. The element of surprise lasted just under 14 hours, longer than they had dared hope. A patrol vessel on an irregular route detected anomalous readings near the gas giant and altered course to investigate. Despite the Vengeance's attempt to maintain stealth, they were discovered. Alert signals flashed across Vordax. Communication channels. Within minutes, dozens of warships began to mobilize from orbital docks and planetary defense stations. "We've been detected," announced Communications Officer Park Min, monitoring the Vordax transmissions. "Their alert level is escalating rapidly." On the tactical display, red markers multiplied as the Vordax fleet organized to intercept the human vessels. The alien ships were diverse in configuration, but shared the same geometrically perfect obsidian black aesthetic that had terrorized Earth a decade earlier. "They outnumber us 5-1, said Yunmina, updating the tactical assessment, as more enemy vessels appeared on sensors. At least 70 combat-capable ships moving to intercept. Their largest vessels are positioning to protect the command station in high orbit around the homeworld. Admiral Kang studied the display, his expression revealing nothing of the momentous weight of the coming decision. Everything, Earth's future, humanity's survival, the lives of everyone aboard his ships, hinged on the next few minutes. "But they don't know what we're capable of," he replied, his voice calm and measured. The product of 10 years of preparation, sacrifice and determination crystallized in that moment of clarity. Battle formations. Protecting elements form defensive. Perimeter around the Vengeance. All ships activate sunburst arrays and prepare for full combat operations. Throughout the battle group, protective panels slid back to reveal the specialized emitter arrays. Unlike conventional weapons, they didn't glow or spark with visible energy. Their power lay in invisible wavelengths, specifically calibrated to the Vordak's biological weakness. All arrays online and at full charge, reported Professor Kim from the Weapons Control Center. Primary firing solutions locked on lead Vordak's vessels. Admiral Kang took one last look at the tactical display, remembering the billions lost on Earth, the ruined cities, the decade of preparation for this moment. All ships advance on my mark, he ordered. Primary targets are their command. Vessels and defense platforms. Engage at will with conventional weapons to create confusion, but priority is sunburst deployment against concentrations of Vordak's personnel. The human fleet accelerated toward the heart of the Vordak system, abandoning stealth for speed. The enemy vessels moved to intercept, their formation suggesting complete confidence in their superior numbers and technology. Enemy weapons powering up, reported Tactical Officer Han. They're preparing to fire. Evasive pattern Delta, ordered Captain Song. Deploy countermeasures. The battle raged across the star system in a complex dance of strategy and technology. Human ships, smaller but more maneuverable, executed tactics no Vordak strategist had anticipated. Having studied the first attack on Earth in microscopic detail, Earth's tacticians had developed approaches specifically tailored to exploit weaknesses in Vordak's combat doctrine. The sunburst array proved devastatingly effective from the first volley. When the invisible radiation washed over the lead Vordak's vessels, there was no dramatic explosion, no visible beam, just a sudden cessation of coordinated movement as the Vordak's crews were incapacitated by the carefully tuned frequencies. Sunburst effect confirmed on targets Alpha through Echo, reported Professor Kim, monitoring the telemetry. Vordak's life signs showing rapid deterioration of neural function. The Vordak's response was initially confusion, then alarm, as ship after ship went dark or began drifting aimlessly. Their remaining vessels attempted to adapt, changing formations and shield configurations, but the radiation passed through their defenses as if they weren't there. The human battle group pressed their advantage, driving toward the massive orbital command station that served as the heart of the Vordak's defense network. As they closed distance, however, the remaining Vordak's vessels concentrated their fire on the Vengeance, recognizing it as the primary threat. Direct hit to sections 14 through 17, called out Damage Control Officer Lee Jiwoo. Shield capacity down to 63%. We have decompression on deck 12. Emergency bulkheads engaged. The bridge shuddered as another impact struck the vessel. Captain Song steadied herself against her console. Reroute auxiliary power to forward shields, she ordered. Continue. On approach vector. Admiral Kang studied the tactical display. Despite the effectiveness of the sunburst array, the sheer number of Vordak's vessels was taking its toll. 2 of their frigates had sustained critical damage, and the Vengeance itself was accumulating battle scars at an alarming rate. We need to end this quickly, he said to Captain Song. Prepare a boarding party. We'll take the fight directly to their command station. Song looked startled. Sir, with respect, the longer this battle continues, the more ships we lose. Kang cut in. If we can neutralize their command structure, we can force a capitulation. The Vengeance took increasingly heavy damage, but managed to break through the enemy lines. Coming alongside the massive Vordak's command station, a structure nearly 5 kilometers across, shaped like an elaborate geometric snowflake with 12 extending arms. Boarding teams to assault craft, announced Captain Song. Medical teams on standby for casualty response. Admiral Kang strapped on combat armor as Professor Kim approached with a specialized device. A portable sunburst emitter, Kim explained, handing the device to Kang. Single use, but it will incapacitate any Vordaks within a 100-meter radius. The frequency is fine-tuned to target only Vordak's physiology. The other species should be unaffected. Kang nodded, securing the device to his equipment harness. Monitor our progress from here. If we reach the central command node, we'll need you to trigger a system-wide sunburst pulse. 20 minutes later, 3 assault craft launched from the Vengeance's Bay, each carrying 15 combat-ready personnel. Admiral Kang led the primary team, while secondary teams targeted communications nodes and power distribution centers. The assault craft latched onto predetermined entry points on the station's exterior. Cutting tools sliced through the outer hull, creating entry points where the station's defenses were weakest. Inside, they encountered immediate resistance. Vordax defenders, tall bipedal figures with iridescent scaling and multiple jointed limbs, fired energy weapons that left scorch marks on the bulkheads. The boarding teams responded with precision fire, their weapons calibrated based on the vulnerabilities identified in Dr. Moon's research. "Push forward," Kang ordered as they secured the initial corridor. "Stay in formation and watch for crossfire." The ICO teams advanced through the labyrinthine interior of the station, encountering pockets of fierce resistance interspersed with areas that seemed almost abandoned. In these sections, they discovered the first living examples of the subjugated species, frightened beings of various forms who cowered or fled at the sight of armed intruders. "We're not here to harm you," Kang called out in the Vordax language, which they had partially decoded from captured communications. The translation software built into his helmet attempted to modulate the sounds appropriately, but the alien beings continued to retreat in fear. As they approached the central command hub, resistance intensified. A squad of Vordax elite guards blocked their path, their weapons more advanced than those encountered previously. "Take cover," shouted Lieutenant J. Kyung as energy bolts sizzled through the air. 3 human soldiers fell in the initial exchange, their armor insufficient against the concentrated fire. Kang assessed the situation quickly, noting the narrow corridor and the superior position of the defenders. "We can't break through without heavy casualties," he decided. "Time for our advantage." He reached for the portable sunburst emitter. "Everyone, polarize your visors. Standard protocols." The device activated with a soft hum. Though invisible, to human eyes, the specialized radiation flooded the corridor. The effect on the Vordax was immediate and dramatic. The guards convulsed, dropping their weapons as they clutched at their sensory organs. Within seconds, all had collapsed to the deck, incapacitated. "Move forward," Kang ordered. "Security teams, secure these prisoners. Medical, check our wounded." The command center lay just beyond. As the doors slid open, they revealed a vast, spherical chamber with workstations arranged in concentric circles. In the center, elevated on a platform, stood what appeared to be the Vordax leadership, 7 figures wearing elaborate ceremonial armor adorned with symbols of rank. But the true shock came from seeing the workers at the surrounding stations. There, toiling under the watchful eyes of Vordax overseers, were representatives of 3 distinctly different alien species. One resembled upright feline beings with 6-fingered hands. Another had a translucent epidermis that revealed pulsing, internal organs, and the third appeared almost crystalline in structure, with faceted appendages that interfaced directly with the technology. When the human boarding party entered, activity in the command center froze. The Vordax leaders barked orders, and guards moved to intercept the intruders. But before combat could resume, Admiral Kang activated his communication link. "Professor Kim, we've reached the command center. Initiate the specialized sunburst pulse. Aboard." The Vengeance, Professor Kim entered the final activation sequence. Transmitting now. The pulse was invisible but unmistakable in its effects. The Vordax throughout the command center collapsed almost simultaneously, their neural systems overwhelmed. By the precisely tuned radiation, the non-Vordax beings remained unaffected, watching in stunned disbelief as their oppressors fell. For several seconds, silence reigned in the vast chamber. Then Admiral Kang removed his helmet and stepped forward, addressing the gathered alien beings through his translation device. "We come as liberators," he told the astonished representatives of the enslaved species. His words were likely imperfectly translated, but the removal of his combat helmet and the neutralization of the Vordax conveyed his peaceful intentions more effectively than language. "We are humans, from a world called Earth. The Vordax attacked our planet and killed billions of our people. We have come to ensure they never threaten us or anyone else again. Today marks the end of Vordax expansion." Slowly, hesitantly, one of the feline beings approached. It spoke in a melodious language that the translation software struggled to interpret, but fragments came through. "You defeated masters." The being's large eyes studied Kang with a mixture of fear and hope. "How possible?" "We found their weakness," Kang replied simply. "They are not dead, merely incapacitated, and they will remain so until we have established terms for peace, terms that include freedom for all species they have subjugated." Around the command center, the alien workers began to communicate among themselves, their various languages creating a symphony of sounds. The atmosphere shifted from fear to cautious hope. Another of the aliens, one of the crystalline beings, approached and interfaced with the translation device, improving its functionality. "I am Nexus 7, it communicated. "Technical overseer for command operations. The Vordax have controlled my people for 300 cycles. They destroyed half our world when we resisted, then took the survivors as slaves for their technical abilities." "Similar story," added the feline being. "We are Mirazi, agricultural specialists, conquered 80 cycles ago." The third species, the translucent beings, joined the conversation. "Thalari, administrators and coordinators. We were the first to fall to Vordax expansion over 500 cycles ago." Admiral Kang absorbed this information with growing resolve. "Then we have much to discuss. The Vordax fleet has been largely neutralized, but we need to secure the entire system and establish communications with all subjugated populations." He activated his comlink to the Vengeance. "Captain Song, the command center is secure. Inform all ships that we've located, representatives of the enslaved species. Prepare for diplomatic protocols." As the human boarding team secured the remaining Vordax and established control of the station's systems, Admiral Kang stood at the central platform, looking out at the stars. The battle had been won more decisively than they had dared hope. Now came the more complex challenge of peace. The representatives of the 3 enslaved species gathered around, eager to learn about these humans who had achieved what had seemed impossible for centuries, breaking the power of the Vordax Empire. For the first time in generations, they allowed themselves to contemplate freedom. "You have questions," Kang acknowledged, "as do we. But first, you should know our intention. We came to protect our world, not to conquer yours. We seek to establish a new order, one where no species dominates another through force." The aliens exchanged glances, a concept long forgotten now rekindled in their consciousness. Hope. Outside the viewport, the battle was concluding. Disabled Vordax vessels drifted. In space, while human ships established a defensive perimeter around the command station, the stars beyond seemed brighter somehow, as if witnessing a pivotal moment in the galaxy's history. Part 5, A New Galactic Order, detailed version. 1 year after the decisive battle in the Vordax home system, Unity Station hung in geosynchronous orbit above the site where Sol had once stood before the first attack. The massive structure, a gleaming ring 5 kilometers in diameter with 12 spoked sections, represented something unprecedented in human history. The first joint human-alien diplomatic outpost. Admiral Kang Taeho and Professor Kim Jiwon stood in the observation dome at the station's zenith, a transparent hemisphere offering an uninterrupted view of Earth below. The planet gleamed blue and white against the blackness of space, appearing deceptively peaceful from this distance. Yet both men knew the surface had forever changed. Hardened cities, defensive installations, and the scars of the first attack still visible on the landscape. Beyond Earth's immediate orbit, a network of sentinel satellites formed a protective web extending throughout the solar system. These early warning platforms, built with technology combining human ingenuity and knowledge gained from former Vordax subjects, could detect space-time distortions that might signal approaching threats from any direction. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," said Admiral Kang, his dress uniform adorned with the insignia of the newly formed Earth Defense Command. The past 12 months had aged him visibly. Silver threads now prominently streaked his once black hair, and new lines etched his face. yet his posture remained straight, his gaze unwavering. "Sometimes it feels like decades," Professor Kim replied. He too showed the strain of the past year, endless diplomatic meetings, technological exchanges, and the monumental task of integrating alien knowledge with human science. "Other times I close my eyes and I'm still in that laboratory when the first alert sounded." Below them in the spacious diplomatic hall, representatives from 6 formerly enslaved species mingled with human diplomats. The feline Merazi, with their fluid movements and ceremonial shoulder capes. The crystalline Thalari, whose faceted bodies refracted light in hypnotic patterns. The translucent Olathi, whose organs pulsed with bioluminescent rhythms. And 3 additional species liberated from more distant Vordax holdings: the avian Kazil, the amphibious Nor, and the silicon-based Gethrak. Human diplomats moved among them, still sometimes awkward in these interactions, but increasingly comfortable, as cultural understandings deepened. Language barriers were gradually falling, thanks to the combined efforts of linguists from all species and advanced translation technology. "The Galactic Council convenes tomorrow," said Kim, watching the gathering. Below, a concept that would have seemed like pure fiction not long ago. 7 species working together to establish mutual defense and cooperation. He shook his head in wonder. "When we launched the Vengeance, the most we hoped for was ensuring Earth's safety. We never imagined this." "No one could have," Kang acknowledged. "Not even the Vordax." The aftermath of the battle had unfolded with stunning rapidity. Once their leadership was incapacitated and their biological weakness exposed, the Vordax civilization had crumbled. Throughout their empire, the subjugated species had revolted, using the same radiation technology shared by humanity to neutralize their oppressors. Without their biological advantages, and with their command structure in disarray, their 1,000-year empire had collapsed in months. The Vordax themselves were now contained on their homeworld, under the supervision of a joint species monitoring force. Their technology had been dismantled, their warships repurposed or scrapped. Their once feared species now faced the long process of rebuilding a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. "I received word from Park Do-hyun this morning," Kim said, referring to the signal intelligence officer who had remained on Earth. "The memorial is complete. President Han will lead the dedication ceremony next week." On Earth, the memorial of remembrance and resilience now stood where Seoul's central district had once been. Built partly from recovered Vordax ship debris, the massive structure incorporated elements that represented both loss and renewal. 3 billion points of light, 1 for each life lost, illuminated in sequence throughout the day and night. The names of destroyed cities encircled the base, while the upper structure reached toward the sky in a spiraling pattern, symbolizing humanity's determination to rise from devastation. "Will you attend?" asked Kang. Kim nodded. "I've requested a short leave from my duties here. Dr. Moon will accompany me." He paused, his expression growing contemplative. "Do you ever think about the cost? Not just what we lost, but what we did in response?" "Every day," Kang admitted. "Do you think we went too far?" asked Kim quietly, giving voice to the question that had haunted some of Earth's leaders in the aftermath of victory. Destroying their capacity to ever threaten another world, confining an entire species to a single planet under perpetual monitoring. Admiral Kang gazed down at Earth, remembering the smoking ruins of Seoul, the billions dead, the decade of desperate preparation. He thought of his wife and daughter, their faces now fading in his memory despite his efforts to hold on to every detail. "They struck Earth first, believing we were defenseless," he said finally. "We ensured they would never strike again while freeing others from oppression. I can live with that legacy." His voice grew firmer. "We didn't exterminate them, which is more mercy than they showed to countless species and billions of our people. The Vordax survive, but under terms that protect everyone else in the galaxy from their aggression." Kim nodded slowly. "The Thalari representative told me yesterday that in 500 years of enslavement, no species had ever successfully resisted the Vordax. What humanity achieved in a decade was unprecedented." "Necessity is a powerful motivator," Kang replied. "As is grief." The observation dome's door slid open and Dr. Moon Jia entered. Like her colleagues, the past year had taken its toll. Her movements were measured with fatigue, and she carried herself with the weight of one who had seen too much. Yet purpose still burned in her eyes as she approached, carrying several data. "Tablets, Admiral, Professor?" She greeted them with a respectful nod. "I apologize for interrupting, but this couldn't wait." Both men recognized the gravity in her expression immediately. "What is it?" asked Kang. "For the past 6 months, I've been working with researchers from all member species to decode the deeper historical archives recovered from the Vordax Central Repository," she explained, activating one of the tablets. A holographic display materialized, showing strange symbols and astronomical charts. The Marazi linguists made a breakthrough last week that allowed us to access records dating back to the earliest period of Vordax expansion. She manipulated the display, enlarging a section of text. "What we found changes everything we thought we knew about them. The Vordax weren't the architects of their empire. They were servants, or perhaps more accurately, advance forces, for something else." The hologram shifted to show astronomical data and what appeared to be ancient Vordax historical records. According to these archives, approximately 2,000 years ago, the Vordax encountered a vastly more advanced civilization at the edges of their known space. This civilization, which the Vordax records refer to only as the Shapers, possessed technology and abilities that seemed almost godlike to the Vordax of that era. Rather than destroy the Vordax, these Shapers altered them, biologically and technologically, transforming them into an expansion force. The radiation processing organs we discovered weren't a natural evolutionary trait, but an engineered modification to make the Vordax more effective tools. Admiral Kang frowned. "Tools for what purpose?" "Preparation," Moon replied grimly. "The Shapers apparently required specific spatial conditions and resource accumulations before they could fully enter this region of the galaxy. The Vordax were tasked with establishing the necessary infrastructure and clearing away any potentially troublesome species. Like humans," Kim said softly. "Like any intelligent species capable of resistance," Moon confirmed. "The records indicate that after setting the Vordax on this path, the Shapers retreated to the galaxy's edge, entering some form of dormancy or suspended activity, but they left behind a prophecy, or perhaps more accurately, a timetable for their return." "And that timetable?" Kang asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Dr. Moon's expression was grave as she adjusted the holographic display to show what appeared to be astronomical calculations. "Based on our best interpretation and conversion to our calendar system, approximately 5 years from now." The 3 humans stood in silence, absorbing the implications of this revelation. Below them, the diplomatic reception continued, representatives of 7 species working together to forge a new interstellar community, unaware of the shadow now looming over their future. "Have you shared this with anyone else?" Kang finally asked. Moon shook her head. "Only the research team knows, and I've sworn them to secrecy until we could consult with Earth's leadership and the Provisional Galactic Council." "We'll need to brief them immediately after tomorrow's session," Kim decided. "This changes everything about our defensive strategies and priorities." "Yes," agreed Kang, "but perhaps not in the way one might initially think." His colleagues looked at him questioningly, and he continued, "The Vordax faced the Shapers alone and were subjugated, transformed into servants. But now 7 species stand united, with combined knowledge and technologies. We're stronger together than any one civilization could be alone." Professor Kim nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "The Shapers created the Vordax Empire, but in doing so they ultimately caused the formation of the very alliance that might successfully oppose them." "Ironic," said Dr. Moon. "They engineered their own potential defeat." "Potential being the operative word," cautioned Kang. "We know nothing about their capabilities, only that they were advanced enough to reshape an entire species to serve their purposes. The challenge ahead will make our conflict with the Vordax look simple by comparison." The 3 looked out at the stars beyond Earth, understanding that humanity's greatest challenge might still lie ahead. The pinpoints of light no longer seemed benign, each one potentially harboring unknown threats or allies, mysteries or resources that could prove crucial in the coming years. "We should be afraid," Kim admitted softly. "Yet somehow I'm not like before." "Because Earth won't face it alone," said Moon, "and because humanity will never again be caught unprepared." Admiral Kang placed his hands on the transparent dome as if reaching toward the distant stars. "They struck Earth first," he said, repeating the mantra that had carried humanity through its darkest hour, "and we ensured they would never strike again. Whatever these shapers are, whatever they intend, they're about to learn the same lesson." Below them, Earth continued its serene rotation, its blue oceans and white clouds belying the hardened civilization it now harbored, a human race forged in fire, tempered by loss and united with new allies. The observation dome gradually filled with representatives from all 7 species as word spread that they should gather. The stars waited, silent and watchful, as the newly formed alliance prepared to face its future. Whatever came from the galactic edge, they would meet it together. The end.